Hello, today we're dealing with this cotton-headed ninny-muggins, also known as Voldemort, or Tom Marvolo Riddle. He also goes by the Dark Lord, Lord Voldemort. No slits. I am Lord Voldemort. Voldemort, Lord am I. Hang on a second, I think this man has confused himself with Yoda. So, I've been diving into all kinds of videos about Harry Potter and the Wizarding World, and Voldemort's eventful history, shall we say. Specifically, we're going to see how many lines were extinguished by Lord Voldemort, both directly and indirectly. I'll be breaking down the reasons behind each indirect demise, connecting the dots along the way. The first victim of Tom Riddle's was a pet rabbit owned by Billy Stubbs. This took place after both Billy and Tom had been in an argument. Tom used some form of magic to hang the poor rabbit from the rafters, as if we didn't have enough reasons to dislike Voldemort already. When I first rummaged through my brain, I briefly considered that the spell used could have been Levi Corpus, until I recalled that that specific spell was created by Severus Snape, who was born much later than Old Vape Face. Another choice is Alert Ascender. This is used by Gilderoy Lockhart.
Celebrity is as celebrity does.
Who's a fraud, and there's a more than decent chance that he stole the spell from an older witch or wizard. There is, however, one great big stonking problem here. Tom Riddle had not been able to attend Hogwarts yet. Ergo, how would he have learned the spell to suspend the rabbit? Short answer, he didn't. He would have used some form of inert magic, like the Force. I'll finish with these two quotes by Miss Cole and Albus Dumbledore. Prepare to have your minds blown by my marvelous impersonation abilities. Billy Stubbs' rabbit. Well, Tom said he didn't do it. I don't see how he could have done it. But even so, it didn't hang itself from the rafters, did it? I shouldn't think so, no. But I'm jiggered if I know how he got up there to do it. All I know is he and Billy had argued the day before. And thus, Bun Buns was the first fatality of Tom Riddle. We find the first human victim at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, where a teenage Tom Riddle indirectly murdered a student named Myrtle Warren with the basilisk that lay within the Chamber of Secrets, or Secrets. Myrtle was crying in one of the girls' bathroom stalls when fellow student Tom Riddle entered and began speaking Parseltongue, causing the Chamber of Secrets' hidden entrance to open, thus releasing a giant overgrown snake. Nobody move, I've got a loaded basilisk and I'm not afraid to use it. I consider this one indirect. One aspect that stands out about the victim here is that I do not believe that Myrtle Warren was chosen. I speculate that Tom Riddle would have been pleased with the death of any random student or teacher. The intention is clear, since we know Tom tamed the basilisk during his 5th year, then proceeded to open the chamber Salazar had left behind in order to purge the Muggleborns. The death of Myrtle also fueled the creation of his first Horcrux, Tom Riddle's diary. When Tom Riddle was just 16, he travelled to the Riddle house in Little Hangleton. There he took the life of not only his father, Thomas Riddle Sr., but both his grandparents' lives as well, Mary and Thomas Riddle. And to commit these dastardly deeds, he did not use his own wand. No, he used the wand of his uncle, Morfin Gaunt, which he used in place of his own, so that he could pin the murders on his uncle by altering his memories, making his uncle believe that he had killed the Riddles. Morfin Gaunt was sent to Azkaban prison, where he died anytime between 1943 and 1996. During this event, Thomas Riddle Sr.'s body was used for the creation of a second Horcrux, the Ring of Marvolo Gaunt. Tom's next target was Hepzibah. Hepzibah. I'm not quite sure how to pronounce your name, Hepzibah. I'll stick with that since I find it funnier. Hepzibah was a witch Tom Riddle had met and befriended while working at Borgin and Burke's antique shop. While he was visiting her on behalf of Mr. Burke, Hepzibah showed Tom two of her greatest treasures, the Hufflepuff Cup and Salazar Slytherin's locket. This ultimately led to her demise. The method chosen this time was poison, which was mixed into her cocoa. Hepzibah Smith was used to create a third Horcrux, the Hufflepuff Cup. The estimated date of her death is between 1955 and 1961. Next up is an unknown Muggle tramp whom Tom Riddle extinguished the life of in order to turn Salazar Slytherin's locket into a fourth Horcrux. Date of death is speculated to be anywhere between 1946 and the 1970s. In a manner very reminiscent of his previous victim, Voldemort chose an unidentified Albanian peasant as a target for his sinister purposes around 1946 or thereafter. This period likely marked the creation of his fifth Horcrux, housing another fragmented piece of his soul within the diadem of Rowena Ravenclaw. Once more, the cause of death remains a mystery. While Avada Kedavra might seem like it's getting repetitive, it's more probable than, say, Voldemort taking out Ronald Reagan in a Turkish bathhouse with a candlestick. Welcome to 1970s Nottingham, where a family of goblins lived and were snuffed out by a Voldyface. According to Arthur Weasley, he speculated that this particular family opposed the Voldemort regime during that era. Cause of death not known for certain. Most likely method would have been, yeah, you guessed it. In light of the absence of precise family size details, I'll extrapolate and consider that the family likely comprised of 2 parental figures and a single offspring. If you're guessing that the next individual in line is Regulus Arcturus Black, you're absolutely right. He was once one of Voldemort's Death Eaters, who later turned against him. In 1979, at the cave filled with Enferi, Regulus Black drank the potion himself, seizing the Slytherin locket. His tragic end came when he attempted to quench his thirst with water from the lake, only to be dragged down to his demise by a horde of Enferi. Angus Elspeth and Marley McKinnon were all wiped out by Voldemort and his Death Eaters prior to October 31st, 1981. Dorcas Meadows, a witch who was a member of the Order of the Phoenix, was dispatched by Lord Voldemort directly during the second half of 1981. Exact cause of death unknown. I'm personally just going to assume Avada Kedavra. Again, this is getting incredibly repetitive. What is wrong with Voldemort? Did all his creativity bones all fall out when he made each of his Horcruxes? For goodness sake, man, throw a fireball in someone's face. Mr. and Mrs. Bones, no, not my parents, the parents of Amelia Bones, were both killed by Voldemort during the First Wizarding War, prior to October 31st, 1981. In yet another display of cruelty, Goldilocks drowned a Kneazle that was owned by Barrabilly's father. What's a Kneazle exactly? Supposedly, it's a magical kitty cat. Well, kinda. It's said to be super intelligent and have the ability to sense dishonest people. Oh, and it can breed with regular house cats, which personally I feel is a bit creepy. The only examples we get of said abilities are when we see Crookshanks and Scabbers together. Claiming this great big ginger beast is super intelligent because it chases a rat that later turned out to be Peter is quite the reach. If a cat chasing vermin was a sign of super intelligence, we would install them as professors at Oxford. We arrive at one of the most iconic moments in the Harry Potter series. That is when Voldemort went to Godric's Hollow, where he easily defeated James Potter, who like an utter potato had left his wand in the living room. After besting James, Voldemort arrived in the nursery, where in a jaw-dropping display, Mr. I'm Ever So Evil extended Lily the chance to step aside, which of course she refused to do, leading to Voldemort promptly ending her life. 26th of May, 1992. Deep within the Forbidden Forest, a unicorn was slain by a possessed Professor Quirrell. Voldemort required the silvery blood to keep his frail form alive. Drinking unicorn blood makes you big and strong. We'll pin this as an indirect kill by Voldemort since he was possessing Quirrell, and as far as I'm aware, Quirrell had no personal need to slurp down unicorn blood, leading me to the conclusion that the unicorn would most likely still be alive had it not been for Lord Voldemort. So what happens during this next event is kind of odd. When Harry is confronted by Quirrell/Voldemort while searching for the Philosopher's Stone, Quirrell attempts to grab hold of Harry, only to find that he gets burned by Harry just touching him with his hands. Despite being aware of this, Voldemort orders Quirrell to subdue Harry again. And that doesn't really end up going his way either. Actually, it turns out way worse. Quirrell ends up looking like he was left on the deep fry setting for way too long. Realizing that Quirrell's body is crumbling like a biscuit, Voldemort nopes out of there. Voldemort obviously did not care if Quirrell lived or died. He even acknowledges this 3 years later, while with his Death Eaters. Not to mention the fact that he was possessing and in control of Quirrell at the time. Yet another life extinguished by the will of Lord Voldemort. Bertha Jorkins was a witch who worked at the British Ministry of Magic. In 1994, she went on holiday to Albania, and one night outside of the Wayside Inn, Bertha bumped into Peter Pettigrew, whom was thought to have been dead by the Ministry of Magic. Peter was able to convince Bertha to take a stroll with him down into the woods, where he overpowered Bertha and took her to Lord Voldemort, who tortured Bertha for information. This process left her mind and body beyond repair. Not one to waste an opportunity, Voldemort used Bertha to transform Nagini into Horcrux number 6. And at last it came to be that Voldemort had found his soulmate in Nagini, and they lived happily ever after. The end. Frank Bryce, a 76-year-old Muggle man who lived in Little Hangleton, had worked as a gardener for the Riddle family, and one night while investigating the Riddle house, he came across the mutilated form of Voldemort, quickly followed by a brilliant green flash of light.
You basic.
Cedric Diggory and Harry were both competing in the Triwizard Tournament, and both of them ended up touching the Triwizard Cup, which actually turned out to be a portkey. It transported the pair to a graveyard in Little Hangleton, and a little itty-bitty baby Voldemort emerged from the darkness. Voldemort commanded Peter to kill Cedric, and in an instant, all that was left was the lifeless body of Cedric Diggory. Florian Fortescue, a British wizard and owner of Fortescue's Ice Cream Parlour, located in Diagon Alley. In 1996, Florian was forcibly taken by Death Eaters because he had information regarding the Elder Wand. The Dark Lords tortured, then later murdered Fortescue. Method used this time was, oh no, not the killing curse, I never would have believed that. Emmeline Vance, a distinguished witch and member of the Order, was attacked near the residence of the Muggle Prime Minister. Now, while not directly linked to Baldy Boy, I am including her here as an indirect casualty, since Severus Snape claimed to have given information to Voldemort that led to Amelia Vance's death. This is assuming Snape was telling the truth. I find it more likely that he is, seeing as he's a double agent, and we know that Voldemort trusted him to such an extraordinarily high degree, as displayed earlier when the Dark Lord, of all people, attempted to spare Lily Potter's life. So it follows that Snape would have had to have given up people from either the Order or the Ministry to maintain that level of trust. Amelia Susan Bones, a British witch and celebrated head of the Department of Magical Law Enforcement. Amelia is presumed to have been murdered for her anti-Voldemort activities. This event took place during the second week of July, in the summer of 1996. There are two likely reasons that Voldemort would have perceived her as a threat worthy of his attention. First reason, she was an excellent candidate to replace Fudge after his removal. A prominent position as head of magical law enforcement was often seen as a stepping stone to ministership. This could have blocked Voldemort from putting his own stooge in place. Second reason is that Amelia was acknowledged to be one of the greatest and most powerful witches of her time, posing a significant potential threat towards Voldemort. Given these factors, it's reasonable to conclude that her death was either ordered by Voldemort or he eliminated her directly. Bathilda Bagshot, a British witch and magical historian, and author of A History of Magic, a book which is used in Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry class of the same name that was taught by Professor Cuthbert Binns. Sometime between midsummer and the 24th of December, after an interview with Rita Skeeter, Bathilda was murdered through the dark arts before her body was reanimated by Lord Voldemort. The next individual that got waxed by Voldemort was a witch and professor at Hogwarts who taught Muggle studies. Her name was Charity Burbage. During the summer holidays of 1997, Charity was abducted by Voldemort and his Death Eaters. An official statement was left behind claiming that she had resigned, which the people closest to her were immediately suspicious of. At this time, Charity was taken to Malfoy Manor, where she was suspended over the table during a meeting between Voldemort and his Lickspittles. There, Voldemort essentially put Miss Burbage on trial, accusing her of polluting the minds of students with pro-Muggle ideas. A nerve. Just before she died, Charity attempted to call out to Snape for help. The only effect this had was causing everyone else in the room to burst out with laughter. Voldemort taunted her before casting Avada Kedavra, then proceeded to feed her body to Nagini. Next up is Old One-Eye. Hold on just a minute, that's the wrong franchise. I'm talking about Alistair Mad-Eye Moody, a pure-blood wizard and aura, who was a key member of the Order of the Phoenix during both the First and Second Wizarding Wars. During the Battle of the Seven Potters, at some point in the battle, Voldemort launched the killing curse toward Mundungus, who instantly panicked and disapparated. So the curse passed right through where Mundungus would have been and ended up hitting Alistair Moody right in the face. 1st of August 1997, the Death Eaters staged a coup on the Ministry of Magic. Scrimgeour was captured and mercilessly tortured by Voldemort for intel on the location of Harry Potter. Despite this, Rufus Scrimgeour refused to give up Harry, so Voldemort did what all Voldemorts do, ended his life, having no more use for a man that would not break. An unnamed German woman and her family were living in the former home of the Wandmaker Gregorivich. One evening, while enjoying some very tasty bratwurst, there was a knock on the front door, prompting her to go and investigate. Who is it? And standing outside was a dark and shadowy figure. Yeah, okay, fine, it wasn't Batman. It was your boy Tom Riddle. And he, well, you know, he kind of ruined the evening of bratwurst for everyone. I will say Voldemort took out the mother and 2 of her younglings. Voldemort finally hunted down the Wandmaker, Myrtle Gregorivich. Okay, fine. I'm just going to call him Gregorivich from now on, casting Levi Corpus to prevent the Wandmaker from escaping. Voldemort demanded Gregorivich hand over the Elder Wand, but Gregorivich claimed it had been stolen years before. Not trusting him, Voldemort used legitimacy to rummage through Gregorivich's memories and finding the exact memory of when the wand was stolen, but not the identity of the thief. Having obtained all the information he could out of the Wandmaker regarding the Elder Wand, Voldemort snuffed out Gregorivich's wick. Gellert Grindelwald, sleeping in the topmost cell of Nuremberg Castle, awoke one night to find that he was not alone. The castle, which served as a functioning prison, had been infiltrated by Voldemort, who was still seeking the Elder Wand. And despite the fact Grindelwald was unarmed and defenseless, he refused to give up the location of the Elder Wand, even going so far as to mock Voldemort's desire for the wand.
Kill me then, Voldemort. I welcome death, but my death will not bring you what you seek. That wand will never, ever be yours.
Voldemort, not really one for anger management, exploded with fury, did not hesitate to strike down an unarmed and defenseless man. We arrive at Malfoy Manor, where Dobby the house elf was in the midst of apparating prisoners from the manor cellar when Peter Pettigrew descended the stairs and entered the cellar. Ron and Harry swiftly confronted Peter, knocking his wand away in the ensuing struggle. Despite this setback, Peter utilized the silver hand bestowed by Voldemort to strangle Harry. Before Peter could finish the job, Harry invoked a life debt owed by Peter, causing a moment of hesitation. The silver hand built by Voldemort was able to read Peter's mind and deemed him as disloyal, and because of this, it turned and strangled Peter. Harry, Ron, and Hermione were busy nicking stuff from the Lestrange family vault. Okay, fine, they were actually stealing Helga Hufflepuff's cup, and the very same day, Voldemort was made aware of the break-in and what was stolen. He was not very amused.
Imposters? What imposters? I thought Gringotts had ways of revealing imposters. Who were they?
It was the Potter boy and two accomplices.
And they took. Tell me, what did they take?
A small golden cup, my lord.
So this basically included Voldemort in to the fact that Harry was hunting down his Horcruxes. The only appropriate response here was, of course, for Voldemort to fly into a rage, unleashing the devastating power of the Elder Wand. On Griphook, Teffington, Rickbert, an unidentified goblin, plus 2 other unnamed Death Eaters. At the bell of Hogwarts, Severus Snape was summoned to join Voldemort in the Shrieking Shack. During their conversation, Voldemort had this to say.
The Elder Wand cannot serve me properly, Severus, because I am not its true master. The Elder Wand belongs to the wizard who killed its last owner. You killed Albus Dumbledore. While you live, Severus, the Elder Wand cannot truly be mine.
Voldemort then ordered Nagini to bite Snape, injecting him with extremely poisonous venom. Venom. Unless I've bungled up my math. Entirely plausible, mind you. Shh. Don't tell anyone. The grand total is 47 lives, snuffed out by the notorious Lord Voldemort. Whether through direct confrontation or the sinister ripple effect, these souls met their demise. And let me know in the comments what you think. Did I mess up any of the dates? Did I miss somebody? Bonus content. Bonus content. I've tucked away 2 examples just for this bonus part of the video because the numbers here are exceedingly fuzzy. While I was cool with throwing a low estimate on the German and Goblin family sizes earlier, it would be exceedingly unfair and tricky to attempt to do that with these next 2 examples. Now that we've got that sorted, let's keep moseying on. The Dark Lord's initial rise to power, which began in the 1970s and ended around 1981, where Voldemort inspired countless vagrant muggles, wizards, and witches. No exact number is given for the sheer amount of Inferi created by Voldemort. We can attempt to speculate though. It's said that Voldemort created an army of these Inferius, which could be hundreds, but I imagine thousands of these Inferi would be much more likely. If we examine this image with Harry and Dumbledore here, we can observe the Inferi slowly stumbling towards Harry as he desperately fights to save both himself and Dumbledore. Now, this is clearly not hundreds on the screen, but if we inspect these next 2 images, we can get a much better idea of how deep this lake is inside the cave. Here you can check out the depth of the lake, and that's assuming that this camera angle is as low as it goes, but it's all we have for now, so let's say it is. It's pretty freaking deep. In this next shot, we see the sheer surface area of the lake. So if we combine both the surface area and depth with the monotonous shambling speed of the Inferi, it's highly probable we're only witnessing a fraction of the Inferi lurking within the cave. The Inferi we catch a glimpse of are merely the ones lingering closest to the island where Harry and Dumbledore are situated. We might have witnessed countless more Inferi if Dumbledore hadn't risen up to deliver his unexpected rendition of Johnny Cash's Ring of Fire. Last, we have the Brockdale Bridge incident that took place in 1996 between the 28th of June and July 5th. Although in this case, I'm actually showing images of the Millennium Bridge from the movies. This scene is all over the place, so it's quite challenging to estimate how many people got thrown off the bridge. And another problem is that I have no idea how large the Brockdale Bridge is. Still, I found it interesting, so I decided to leave it in the video. Well, I think that's where we'll end the video for now. Thank you for watching, everyone.